Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Courtney Grayton and I am a creative and natural hair stylist and educator. On my side of the internet, you will find expert information on how to care for your locks. And in this video, we're going to be talking about how to get and maintain curly ends on your locks. I do quite a few consultations every week for people who want to start their locks, and this is the most commonly asked question. I hope this video helps you all out, so let's get right into it. Getting curly ends on your locks depends on your hair texture. So people who naturally have a looser hair texture will see the curly ends on their hair naturally without having to do much. It'll just happen whether you get coils, whether you get two-strand twists, and usually your hair starts to bud closer to the root as opposed to the ends. So the ends are usually the last things to really lock. If you have a tighter coil like I do, type 4 hair, I know for a fact if I lock my hair, I will not most likely see any of those curly ends. And I manage my own expectations when it comes to my hair texture. I love my 4C hair and I love how fast it locks. If you have a tighter hair texture, I hope this doesn't completely discourage you from getting locks, but I hope it helps to encourage you to just embrace your hair exactly how it is. There are ways to sort of create this curl manually, and I will get to that, but it's not absolutely necessary. But if you're going the traditional route and you don't have a looser texture, don't worry, your locks will still be beautiful. You can still get very textured locks without having a loose curl at the end. If you are someone who does not naturally have that curl texture, you can create it manually. I have personally seen people crochet some curly hair to the ends of their locks if they do like instant locks. So they would crochet their own hair to make an instant lock and then add some curly hair to the end. I've seen it look good sometimes, but I can only imagine that as your hair matures, you will eventually either have to swap that hair out as it gets old, because even if you use virgin hair that may last a while, it's definitely not going to last if you are trying to keep your hair for 10 years, 20 years, like virgin hair bundles or whatever. It's not going to last that long, so you will eventually have to either swap it out or just end up cutting it off. So it can be made by finding some hair. I will always recommend virgin hair over like any type of synthetic anything, and some people will just go ahead and crochet it in. Or if you find lock extensions that kind of already have the curly ends, that's also a way to achieve the curly end if you have a tighter texture. Now you just have to manage your expectations when it comes to your hair actually growing out. If you buy some lock extensions that have these curly ends on the end, the hair is most likely that was used is more of a looser texture. So as your roots grow out, it might not match the ends of the texture, and that's just something that will be up to you and your preference on how that looks. I am providing information for people who plan to keep their locks for a considerable amount of time. If you are someone that's more for temporary, yeah, you can do whatever for aesthetic purposes. But if you are looking to keep your locks for years to come, I would recommend choosing a method that will give you the best results in the long run. And sometimes adding some other type of hair to your hair in the beginning might not be the best for the long run. If you already have these curly ends, or if you are planning to get locks and you already have that looser texture, here are some tips for you. So you want to keep it hydrated. The curl definition that you will see is a direct result of how moisturized and hydrated your hair is. So you want to make sure, just like always, I stress this in every single video, keep your hair hydrated. And so making sure to hydrate those ends as well and not just focus on your scalp is going to be very important, especially because the texture will be different. So your hair will be locking and budding, but if you are maintaining the curly ends, you want to definitely make sure that the point where the curly end starts and the lock starts, that point is very hydrated, because usually whether it comes to transitioning your hair from relaxed to natural or whatever, usually if there is a very clear line differentiating two different textures, that point is very fragile. So you want to make sure that that is always hydrated so that you don't run the risk of it getting too dry and just separating. I have a few clients who consistently comb their ends out when it starts to bud some. So if you notice that your locks start to lock, obviously with maintenance and different styles and things like that, if your locks start to lock on their own, which they naturally would, you can every few months or so, kind of go in and just make sure that the ends are open. Just like I mentioned, that line of demarcation is very fragile, so you want to be very gentle when you're doing that. And if you see breakage, I would recommend to just stop, because maybe that hair is too weak. You can potentially do like a protein treatment to try to strengthen it if possible, but I would say this shouldn't be something that you are absolutely forcing. I would say allow it to happen naturally. In addition to combing them out, deep conditioning, steam treatments are great for keeping it hydrated. If you notice that maybe some of your ends are splitting, because obviously the ends of traditional locks don't split, but if you have some of those loose ends, you might notice some of the ends kind of splitting or getting brittle. Trimming them would be your best option so that it just doesn't look like brittle and crunchy. It won't necessarily affect the condition of where your hair is very mature and locked, but it just won't look the best. Another option that some of my clients use, especially after your hair starts to mature some more and you have kind of a solid lock with those loose ends, you might also want to use some of those curly hair products that you thought you needed to throw out before you started your locks. Some of those loose hair products, you might want to keep those so that you can use them to style the ends, make them a little bit more curly, sort of kind of doing the wash and go technique. And you can use twisting creams as well as like a light gel. If you are adding extra product like that, you want to make sure that you're focusing it only on the ends and not on your lock to prevent product buildup. And also, you may need to go in and shampoo the ends of your locks a little bit more than the length of your lock. You might have to kind of section them off a little bit and make sure you do a little shampoo, rinse it out and everything, being as though you might be styling the loose hair a little bit more often than your actual locks, and add more product. Just make sure that you are keeping an eye out for that product buildup, because we don't want that. It doesn't look good, and sometimes it can be hard. It can attract lint, which is hard to remove. And the very last tip that I have is just advising your loctician, or if you are maintaining your hair at home, make sure not to wrap the frizz all the way around the lock. So I've talked about this technique. It is the technique that me and my employees use at the shop in order to make the lock kind of bud faster and look more uniform. During the retwist, I will take a lot of the frizz and wrap it back around the lock. It's essentially the technique of locksmithing, but just a lot less abrasive and healthier for your hair to do the manual wrapping. But because it makes your hair lock faster, you want to make sure that you are letting your stylist know not to wrap the lock all the way to the end, because that will encourage the budding. My clients who I know are allowing the loose ends to remain on their locks, I will retwist the hair as normal and then wrap the hair as normal as well, but not all the way to the bottom. So I'll probably stop around halfway or 3/4 of the way, but leave the end of the lock free. It's not much to it. That's usually the rundown that I give my clients in my starter lock consultations, and I hope this video helps. If you have any questions specifically about yours or anything that I didn't mention in this video, definitely drop it below and I'll be down there answering questions as always. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more of these videos, and I will see you all in my next video. Thank you so much.